In this segment of the show, we're going to be going over the 3 games I'm playing now in September of 2020, guys. This is the show, or I should say the segment of the show, in which we talk about the 3 games that I'm playing. And each month, guys, there's probably going to be some games that are similar, others that may have changed. But I kind of give you guys the games that I'm playing, and this is another way that we can kind of connect, have real conversations about these different games. And, you know, I typically like playing 3 different games throughout the course of each month and kind of focus, whether we're talking from a story perspective, which is what I mainly focus on, or we're talking about a multiplayer perspective, co-op, the whole 9, guys. I like to kind of talk about those 3 games and go into a little bit of some detail with those. So with that being said, guys, coming in at number 1, the number 1 game I'm playing this month in September 2020 is Control. This is a game, guys, of course, from Remedy Games. And I gotta say, look, Control overall, I really love a lot of the concepts here within this game. With some frame rates, like kind of there's some glitching at times and some bugs and things of that nature within the game. Overall, that doesn't really take away from the story as a whole. A very interesting and intriguing story. I gotta say, guys, that I'm not as much of a fan of Control as others. However, I love the concepts that they have within this title. I think that the voice acting, a lot of the different, obviously our main character, Jessie, she has a lot of, a number of different abilities and such, which I think are really cool within this title that you're able to utilize. And it's an interesting story, to say the least. And it gets, as you get further and further into the game, it does get pretty difficult. So we're working on it, guys, working on trying to get through the course of the game. And I got to say, I like it a lot. I really do. Now, do I like it as much as other people? Not so much. I mean, one of the big reasons I've said this and I've harped on it for a while, that Control is not a game that I personally would come back to after beating the campaign, is because it has no other modes outside of the campaign. It doesn't have other ways to connect with the franchise after you're done beating it. Sure, they got DLC, and then of course they're going to have these ultimate editions and things of that nature, which are going to be adding content along the way. However, they don't, after you beat the campaign, if you don't have other things to really do throughout the course of the journey that you play the game, I'm going to move on to something else. And so, that being said, though, for what it is, I enjoy this story. It's very unique in a number of ways. Can't take that away from Remedy Games whatsoever. It does have similarities to some of their other titles out there. I am absolutely hoping that we get left on a cliffhanger here in the first Control game, and that leads us into Control 2. But with that, guys, that brings me to number 2, which at number 2 for me, guys, is Journey to the Savage Planet. Now, this one, guys, to me, from the front cover to just like watching some of the gameplay and such before actually getting the game, reminded me a lot of No Man's Sky. Just from obviously a very, condensed version of No Man's Sky. Obviously, No Man's Sky, guys, is a game that is so immense in everything that it encompasses. You could spend years playing No Man's Sky. Whereas with this, it's about a 7.5-hour campaign, give or take, which we've started here. And I gotta say, guys, I'm enjoying it. Like, it's a pretty fun experience for what it is, right? I mean, sure, there's things here and there that you might not, like about it, but all I'm gonna say is that this is another title similar to Control that is very unique. It's different, and I like that about Journey to the Savage Planet. Now, look, I haven't completed the game. I haven't completed either of these games, or any of these, to say the least. We're kind of playing each of them as we're going through the course of September, trying to beat each of these games throughout September. But I gotta say that Journey to the Savage Planet is, at this point in time, where I am with the story. It's unique. And it's different for sure. I love the colors. It's very, lots of different colors, lots of color palettes and such. And I like that concept. It's kind of one of those titles, guys. Like I said, it reminds me of in ways of No Man's Sky, but just not nearly as diverse in everything that it encompasses. But it's definitely something I'm excited to see where the story goes as we go to the end of the journey. So I'm about halfway through the game, probably at this point in time, and I gotta say, it's been a pretty fun playthrough. I would certainly recommend trying it, guys. We'll have to kind of wait and see. I'll have to give you guys a full review on it after I'm finished with it, but at this point in time, I do enjoy it. And coming in, guys, at number 3 is Resident Evil 3, the remake, of course, guys, which we're coming off of playing Resident Evil 6, so I'm kind of going a little bit backwards in the way I've been playing the Resident Evil titles, because I kind of want to just get caught up on what's going on, everything that we kind of know so far about this story and such as a whole. Played Resident Evil 6 and beat that last month. And from Resident Evil 6, each of these games have things that you, of course, like. There's other things that you dislike, right? That's why I think with any game out there, you can kind of pick apart the things that you don't like about it. You can also look at all the positives that are in these games. And I got to say, Resident Evil 3 is a title that I do enjoy. What I will say is this. I like it more than Resident Evil 2, that remake. I played that one as well. And here's my complaint with Resident Evil 2. So Resident Evil 6, guys, I felt like you were playing the same kind of storyline, just in a different way with each of the characters. It was basically the same narrative, but you were playing it from different perspectives. It was an interesting concept, but it was kind of really repetitive after a while, and was Resident Evil 6 as far as the campaign is concerned. Now you get to Resident Evil 2, the remake. The thing I didn't like about it, I had never played the original Resident Evil 2, okay? So kind of take that for what it is. The same thing can be said with Resident Evil 3. I didn't get into Resident Evil in this franchise until Resident Evil 5. That's when I started, and I absolutely loved it. I've always planned on going back to play the other ones, never got a chance to, but with these remakes coming out, I thought I got to try it. So I played the second one, and I gotta say, guys, I wasn't really impressed. I was impressed with the graphics from a graphical perspective, loved it. The story perspective, it was okay. I just didn't like this feeling where the entire game felt like one big puzzle. That you're just trying to solve this puzzle, and you're trying to do this to unlock, this statue that, or this, lever, or what. The whole game just felt like one big puzzle. And I'm okay with having puzzles throughout games, guys. I mean, don't, make a kind of get it twisted that I don't like puzzles whatsoever in games. That's not it. It's just that I don't like it when the entire game feels like you're just doing puzzles the entire time. You go into a room, and there's some, zombies or whatever it might be behind a door. You take those zombies out to try to get to another room or something, and then you go back into that room later on, and there's zombies just appear once again in that same room. Things like that starts to get very repetitive, and you're trying to figure out these puzzles. And not that, it's super difficult. It's just the fact of the matter is a lot of back and forth into like similar rooms trying to figure out these puzzles. Whereas I kind of like having that open world setting or having a linear experience. This kind of feels a little bit like it's kind of toying with each of those things. And when you're adding the puzzles in there, it does create some frustration, especially throughout the journey. So Resident Evil 2, all in all, I didn't like it as much as some people did. Resident Evil 3, I gotta say I like it more than the second one. But obviously, going through this is another game, I believe that's about an 8-hour campaign or something along those lines. So we're getting into it, and I gotta say, I like it. It definitely, the pacing is a little bit better from Resident Evil 2. And obviously, guys, when you're talking about the early games within a franchise, you can really pick a lot of things apart. And, over time, you're expecting that a company like Capcom are going to continue evolving the franchise forward. And they absolutely have done that. And I can just see it from Resident Evil 2 to Resident Evil 3. Then, of course, Resident Evil 5 to Resident Evil 6 to 7. I mean, you can just see that continuation and what they've done moving forward. And so I got to say, guys, I like Resident Evil 3 so far. Hold that thought, though, because we'll have to continue, be in the game, and I'll be able to give you guys the full rundown on what I think. But at this point in time, I like it more than the second one, and I'm excited to complete it, to say the least. But those, guys, are the 3 games I'm playing September of 2020. What are the games that you're playing this month? Let me know in the comment section down below, and let's have a real conversation about it. And for more 3 games I'm playing now, content and videos, stay here with Zero TV.